Hello, hello. How is it going? Oh, it's been an interesting time home labbing. I would really like to take a second to make some coffee because I'm kind of sleepy, but then I'm gonna leave you all sitting here for a bit. So I will I will wait it out. Okay, I'm just gonna pop chat over to somewhere I can see it. Is that working? Let's do this. There we go. Cool. Oh, it's been a fun time. Um, I feel like NixOS has really made home labbing. NixOS paired with some LLMs makes home labbing feel easier and more durable, and that's been quite nice. I always kind of felt like my implementations when I was on, let's say, a quote unquote traditional Linux operating system, they kind of scared me. Like, I never trusted. I always thought to myself, like, my documentation is always old. The amount of diligence required to document literally every step, every everything you do to your distro is just kind of impossible. Um, and uh, I don't know, like I always just kind of felt that, but NixOS has been making things better. Got a broken laptop, half top. I like that. Yes, the full garbage bin is gone. Got a broken laptop for like 150 bucks just for home lapping. Working great so far. 1 terabyte and a modern CPU. Trying NixOS on my mini PC as well. That's exciting. I've always thought the half tops. I like that as a name too. That's really cool. Oh, we added, are we? We are indeed. Um, so yeah, I always thought those half tops were an interesting idea for home labbing. Like, what a great way! It's like they have their own built-in power supply. Like, if you turn an old laptop into your home lab, the UPS is built in, kind of. You know, I mean, it's better than nothing. And for 150 bucks, like, can you buy anything for 150 bucks these days? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you could buy a steak. That's a good deal. So very fun, very fun. Let's see. Let's see. This should work. Okay. Yeah. So I've been exactly a keyboard and a keyboard. That's true. Low wattage by default. That really is a nice setup. Huh. I gotta give that more thought. Maybe that's. I mean, I don't need any more home lab material at the moment, but sorry, I'm just fiddling real quick. But that might be a recommendation from now on. Like, if somebody wants to get into home labbing, at least while things are expensive and frustrating, that does sound like a good option. I mean, you could probably still hop on eBay or Kijiji and stuff like that and actually find real people to buy stuff for and low profile. Yeah. I guess it just looks a little odd. um okay. So, I have a list of things that I want to do with this home lab, but I haven't decided what to do next yet. I think today I want to play around with SOPs because I don't really know how that works. Like, I understand the concept, but I realize when I've never used something myself, I feel really icky when I make like an AI thing do it. Like, I kind of just have this sense that I don't know what's going on and I can't tell if it's doing a good job. Do you know what I mean? Um, and so I'm very interested in SOPs, especially with like Nix-SOPS as a thing. And I know I've got like stuff that's gonna need secrets coming up. Um, so I'd like to set up some of that infrastructure early. So that might be a chunk of what we do today. I think. I mean, obviously everything's gonna be kind of throwaway. I think it'll just be experimentation. So let me. How do I change the stream titles and stuff? I gotta do a little configuring. can I do this? Why? Twitch is the most distracting interface I've ever seen. Like the moment the moment you get on, it's just like you're assaulted by many different so many different things, and they're all playing sound at you at the same time. Yeah, and since RAM can't be removed anymore, soldered, you get the whole thing deal. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Walk me through how we'd build Quadrant, detail the inputs, outputs, and transforms that take place in the Nix file, and all the modules used. Yeah, I mean, I agree. And that is like usually step one, but I kind of like, especially there's like I can only describe it as like a sensation. Like you kind of know what it feels like. Oh, you kind of know what it feels like to be using a particular tool. Um, and when you know what it feels like to do it, like it feels better. It's kind of like I spent just a little bit of time learning TypeScript when I started getting my agents to write TypeScript, and it just made the whole experience better. Even if like I very rarely drop down and read the TypeScript, just knowing that I could feels better. I think it's just a feeling thing. But yeah, that is like usually step one for me. I think that's what we'll call that. And then how do I edit stream? I'd say that's a great way to learn something. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like, no problem at all. Um, hey Tim, how's it going? No, Nix has its own language. Like Nix, the language of Nix is Nix. I'm learning. I picked up a little bit of TypeScript just because like these days half the internet is written in TypeScript, and it's a pretty decent language. I was doing a lot of Python dev. That's what I do at work mainly. Um, but TypeScript's a nicer ecosystem. The things are actually like strongly typed and a bunch of other nice features. Like it's a really rich ecosystem. It's very quick to develop in, but you still have types, and types make a big difference, I think, for agents as well. Like AI is better at writing code when it has types. It's better at writing code when it has like strong enforcement of any type. But yeah, yeah, like types are types are a good one. Let me just adjust the Twitch side of things with some tags. I realized I've been streaming on Twitch with no tags, which is basically hard nerfing me. uh, that should do. Cool. Okay. So I think now our stream is set up. Hey Proton, how's it going? Doing good. Have had a few eurekas with a project. Okay, that's exciting. I'm doing with a friend. Very exciting. How are you doing, Nathan? It's been a while. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I was feeling really tired for a while. I've been working pretty hard lately, and oh, I'm just staring at myself. 1 second. There we go. And so I've been trying to like cut back. I think one of the things with AI is it's so easy to prompt all day and feel like you're not doing any work, but then you realize that your brain is exhausted because you've been multitasking all day long. And so I'm trying to cut back and sort of reorder my practice so that like I try to sit down, do a little bit of tinkering, let the AI go, and then just let that be, and then you can come back and review it tomorrow. Um, I went for a nice long walk on Saturday and just sort of like meditated in this big field. It was really quite nice, and I was like, huh, I am exhausting myself for no reason. Like, there's no way I'm more productive or getting more done by just like grinding myself to the bone. So, yeah. I mean, or so years ago, I moved to TypeScript as one of my default languages to solve problems. Yeah, I wish I had done that sooner. But I mean, being a Python person did get me my job, or it was a big component in my job, so I can't be too mad. And Python, you can get a lot done in Python, so not too bad. But TypeScript, I feel like it's a nice place to be. I always wanted to learn Go, but Go stopped being cool a little while ago. And I guess I didn't get the memo because I was like, in my brain, I was like, Go's still cool, right? Like, we all still like Go. Apparently, we don't. I don't know what happened. I'd still like to learn it, but I don't know. There's so many things to learn, and it feels weird, but these days, it doesn't feel like the most effective thing to do is learn a programming language. Like, the AI just does that better than you. Um, the infrastructure stuff, networking stuff, that kind of thing has been the bottleneck for a lot of what I want to achieve. And maybe that's different if like you're a hardcore software developer. I'm a weird like jack of all trades kind of thing. Um, I like it that way, but I imagine if you're the kind of person who's in like a high performance like C or Rust implementation of something really complex and challenging, I imagine it's still worthwhile really, really knowing your language. Um, but that's not like the bottleneck on my performance at work and the things that I'm interested in. Yeah. So, not what I'm learning in right now. One day, maybe. I flashed for the entire thinking tree the whole day. Yup. I got to learn from Rob Pike at one point. That's cool. In person on Google's dime. That is really cool. I just ran one session with one model and have the model do all the sub agents and so on with Hermes agents. Yeah, I find even when I do that, I'm always checking in. Like, are you done yet? Are you done? How about now? How about now? And I'm always like, ooh, like maybe one more quick fix. Like, I mean, I saw that this one's done, so I'll just get it started on the next one and put it away. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, Go is cool for networking. Yes, I think it still is. Like Tailscale's all written in Go. Um, and so yeah, the networking people still like Go. I wonder why. I don't really know much about that. Seems cool though. In modern C, it's know your auditors. Is this for like auditors meaning you're getting like security auditors and things like that because they're usually high risk applications? High risk seems like the wrong way to phrase that, but you get my point. How did you come to that conclusion? What did you assume or explore along the way? Rust is the language at the end of the day. Yeah, one of these days. One of these days. I mean, I hear there are some weak cases though. Like what like Rust is clearly a language that deserves to be around and be used extensively. But what was the thing? Is it like it sucks at async or something like that? I don't really know much about the Rust space. I don't plan on it. My dad was learning Rust for a while. Go is powerful for networking mostly because of its concurrency model. Yes, okay, I was fiddling with Go routines at some point. That's pretty cool. Okay. Is doing multiple languages in one project, if one can say using Rust to do everything more or less? Just a few things I'm still trying to understand when it comes to developers. Um, I mean, I personally, in my personal projects, if I can do everything with one language, I do. uh, and it's only if there's like a highly, like a super important use case where another language is just like leaps and bounds better for that use case, and that use case is important enough to warrant including a new language, right? I mean, like before AI, forcing your development team to know, like to sort of spread their knowledge out that way, um, just doesn't seem worthwhile. But there's cases like I don't know, you're writing some like machine learning stuff and you need to drop in like you're mostly in Python but you need to drop into C because the C stuff is just way more performant or like that kind of idea. Um a bit weird but fine. Okay, cool. Chain of thought and workflow for how CI/CD and distro for infra for just internal tooling and so on. Chain of thought and workflow for how CI and distro for infra. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, Tim. What's that mean? What do you mean by chain of thought and workflow? Are these specific tools? Um, I'm not sure. Tell me more. Uh, when using C today, the choice wakes scrutiny already. And it matters less if it's good, more if over defensive code killing your latency. The reason you're going for it in the first place. I see. Interesting. Is like, are they just wary of any C code? Is this like, because I remember at one point the US government was like, no, we're writing things in Rust now. And I'm like, what? How is the US government making policy about what programming languages to use? That seems odd. My message was split in half. Okay. It's doing multiple languages in one project, trying to understand when it comes to a developer's developer's train of thought and workflow for how CI/CD and distro for infra for just internal tooling and so on. I see. Okay. I see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm like also remember that I'm no like whiz bang developer. I'm pretty okay. Um, I would not say that's my strong suit, right? Like I get the job done. I think my strengths in any sort of business setting or like professional setting are I think I'm a strong communicator. I think I'm a like, and that's driven mostly by the fact that I'm like a this weird jack of all trades because I'm curious about everything. So I kind of just pick up knowledge about a lot of stuff, which lets you kind of like bridge the gaps when people don't know how to talk to one another for things. I was pleased by not hearing Java in the whole. Oh my god, I haven't written Java. I wrote Java for my first co-op with Spring Boot. I never want to write Java again. Like I'd be okay never touching the JVM again, right? I remember there was a bunch of like Java was like hot at Guelph when I was there, and so a bunch of people were picking up Kotlin, um, and yeah, I'm okay with not writing Kotlin either. That's fine with me. But Nathan Laundry, you got work/job background. I got nothing. Oh, I mean, fair enough, right? Like, you're learning really, really quickly, right? So I just want to be able, like, when I say things like, I'm no whiz-bang software developer, what I mean to say is, know that my opinions are not like the opinions of some top-tier person. I have the knowledge that I have, and I'm happy to share it, and I hope it's useful. Java can jump off a cliff. Yeah, I'd really be happy to never write Java again. Okay. Um, cool. I guess we can hop right into some stuff. So let's make this bigger. So where did we leave off last week? Java is the best tool for the purpose. If I ever happen to need to write an interactive DVD menu, is Java the best for that too? If so, why? Dabbling in Android development because Google can't do calendars on Wear OS right. Yeah, that sounds right. um, yeah, so yeah, I've been learning Kotlin. That makes sense. I hope to never like if I write an Android app for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure the AI is going to do all of that. Like I'm not going to have to write Java or Kotlin myself. Everybody, I know, but anything is something for me. No problem. Happy to share what I know. My last workplace, I worked with a guy who was who was at Sun when it got acquired by Oracle. Huh, interesting. Okay. So, my response to mobile development is thin Java wrapped around an actual Rust program. Yeah, I mean that's how Kairos works. Like this thing is well, it's not Rust, but it's a thin Swift application wrapping around the TypeScript core. And that's been pretty fun. Okay, so what do we got? Last week we got the NAS running, right? That was that was the big goal. We were like, I want there to be a NAS. And we have one now. It mounts, it's great. I can actually read my files and things again. I love that for me. Off stream, I was reading up on tooling and I wanted some basic tests. So, for example, this runs make verify, takes a second, but it just checks a few things, like that the NAS works and I can reach it with SSH. The activated NAS has no failed systemd units. The activated NAS exposes an existing NixOS system generation. This is probably not necessary. This feels like testing nothing. But these are the ones I really care about. And what I wanted was a quick, hey, verify that everything still works the way I expect it to. For two reasons. One, I don't want to like deploy something and then be kind of lazy, which is going to happen, and then not check everything and then find out like 2 days later that one of my friends is trying to access the NAS and it's down. I wanted just a quick like, hey, deployment worked. Did it like really work? And this gives me that. And then it also gives me, if like an AI is writing an implementation of something, it can go like, hey, did I break anything? So that's the idea. So that's what I did off stream. How are you handling drift between config and test? Agent, I have specs, and I'm hoping, and like mostly just sort of reviewing and tracking. It's best effort, I would say. So basically I use my tool SpecBase, which I'm dubious about. SpecBase feels like it pushes the agents to be overly verbose and like write too many tests. So that's interesting. I'll see about that. But for example, if I go to behavior, storage, and then we go to like NAS Samba, this spec has an enforcement YAML, right? And sort of basically says, like, if we go to the requirements, there's this requirement. The NAS exposes guest open SMB shares for media bin and small boy. And so what is that one called? Samba shares exposed. So we can see that there's a test. It covers Samba shares exposed, and this is what it is. You should consider if there's a way to derive the tests from the Nix files. That would be really cool. Hold on. We have a feature for this. SpecBase, ideas, add Nix, generate tests from Nix config. That would be really cool. But yeah, that's the basic approach right now. So anytime a spec is generated, then it's paired with this enforcement file. And the enforcement file kind of says like, hey, you've got these many requirements. How are they covered? And it tells you, hey, you've got a test. It covers these two requirements, and this is the test. That's kind of nice. That's the difference between you and I. I really, in one data point. Which part? The fact that I have which part? You should also have your agent reflect a few times over it. Oh, I do. I have. There's a system for this. So basically for each of these, if I go to config, right? Ooh, these are big. There's these planes that are defined. So behavior, architecture, ops, you'll see that they're mirrored in the specs. For each one of these planes, a different reviewer spawns. And so they're like all checking different aspects of the code base, which is kind of cool. I'm getting the feeling that this is like wickedly over-engineered. So we'll see. The derive from Nix is where I started. I mean, I'm just slowly adopting the Nix. I feel like the longer I play with Nix, the more I'll move into like trusting the Nix and using it for as much as possible. I was already looking at Nix-based router solutions because I'm sitting here looking at OpenSense and I'm like, what happens if my OpenSense dies? Like I can, yeah, I'm slowly moving. I honestly didn't even think you would be able to do that, but that is pretty cool. Like if I go here, Samba, like this is not, these aren't big. I could derive these. What would I have to derive? I mean, like there's not, could I programmatically derive these things? Yeah, I mean, like, what do we have? Services, right? So this one says, check if that service exists. This is the default. Let's see. This is hardware config. Samba. Samba needs to be configured. Yeah, this is walkable too. Like it's written a lot like JSON, to be completely honest. You could probably traverse Nix and derive core information and then write tests based on that. That would be really cool. Okay, that's something to think about. That is why I've been considering making my own for that exact reason. Cool. Better you can make the tests be an output of the Nix file. Yes, agreed. That would that would solve the drift problem. That would be pretty cool. I'll give that some thought later. Anyways, okay. So this is doing its thing. We have tests. I like that. And there's a couple of things that I really want to get to, or a couple of things that I'm interested in working on. I don't really know how SOPS works yet, and I think I need that. I'm also interested in starting NetBird so that I can like, Okay, let's map out a couple of the things that I want to do first. Better you can make the tests, and I just had to ban a Twitch user. I swear, again, another bot. So let's do a quick. Where is spec base ideas? I'm using the mouse an awful lot for a Vim user. Let's do planned features. And I'm just gonna grab. Yeah. Okay, so let's just go. What are some of the things I really want to get to? I think the first service I want to host is music service. So I've been this is a completely off topic, but it's something I've been interested in lately. I really want to get into the blues. I've been slowly doing this, and I want to own my music, right? I'm really getting tired of paying Apple Music or Spotify or whatever streaming service. And I also want to listen to albums all the way through more. So I've been interested, like one of the things I want to get this NAS up and running for is hosting some sort of music service. There are a lot of, I think, is it Navidrome? This is one of the first actual uses I want. Yeah, I think that's the one. Navidrome? But music streaming services aren't that useful unless you have like remote connection. I think I'm going with NetBird here because I really like their solution for multiple sites. And one of the main reasons I'm interested in... oh, can I suggest your user management first? Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, I haven't thought about that very much. So, what would that entail? I mean, like, let's say Navidrome is good. Jellyfin works fine for me. Ooh, cool. Okay. I feel like Navidrome was very music centric. So I don't even know what this would entail. Like, what users do we need? How to... Yeah, because I guess the Samba shares are still just anyone has access to them. So that's definitely something to consider. What users do we need? So I guess we'll get into this later. I want this. What else? I mean, I am interested in like CI/CD stuff. So this is where like ForgeJo goes. I'm currently building on my MacBook, which is already causing weird issues. macOS doesn't like the Nix daemon using SSH, so that's been fun. So I'd like to have another box set up to handle this, but I also I want my local Git, like Git, let's call it hoster, to be mirrored with GitHub for two reasons. One, I don't trust anything I host ever. And so I would hate to lose my home lab configs because my NAS went down or something. Like, that seems extremely unlikely, but honestly, you never know. And then two, I like discoverability, right? I mean, I'm a streamer and a YouTuber. It's kind of, it's important that what I create is like visible and shared. So that's a goal. We could dive into user management. I think that is definitely something I'll have to do. And I guess probably makes sense before I start hosting services, right? Do services get their own users? I don't even know how that would look. We'll have to look into that more. Keycloak at home seems to be a bit of an overkill. I like it and it's simple plus supported, but for maintenance at home, low complexity matters. Yeah, I was looking at Keycloak. Does that fall under, that falls under auth? Does user, like when we talk about user management, are we talking about user management like that? Is that all under the blanket of auth? Because I can't even, like, I'm thinking about what can be done before I even start hosting any services, right? Like, there's the basic stuff of like Samba. Samba needs users, but I guess if I have, how does OIDC play with my user management for Samba? I don't actually know that very much. Keycloak is heavy. Yeah, I was looking at, I don't know how to pronounce that. Canedum? I'm going with Canedum. Canedum did look nice. And it's all like text-based configuration, which is pretty sweet too. Weakly held choice, admittedly. Yeah, so services for this included like Athelia, Authentic, Canedum, and Keycloak. So all of those looked interesting to me. I didn't know. I haven't made a decision yet. We'll see. I want to avoid having to use a phone for things. So this is interesting. I liked Athelia over Authentic last I looked by quite a bit. Okay, so let's do this and this and this. So Authentic likely doesn't make it because we have one half-baked vote by plus on Keycloak. One vote on Canedum and one vote on Athelia, it feels like. So cool. I mean, that's fine. I want to avoid thinking about these things too much. I'm sure all of them will be fine, and if at some point I need to migrate, I can just migrate. So these are not like, they're not too bad to deal with. What the heck? I really don't like this feature of NeoVim or LazyVim that adds this weird tab bar across the top. Like, yeah, just heavy to work with. Okay. So there's this. I mean, the remote connection stuff sort of ties into user management because I think Netbird allows like OIDC, like allows custom OIDC. I know Tailscale does, but, and I think Netbird does, but only if you pay, and I'm not willing to pay. So we'll see about that. Okay. And then what else? I mean, we got the testing stuff done. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give myself some credit. Testing. Basic testing, planned out, and extensible. This makes me happy. We also have basic NAS functionality. Also done. Love that for me. Okay, so I think next up, you can probably configure LazyVim. I definitely can, but the reason I use LazyVim is so that I don't have to configure it. Okay, so let's get started on this, and we're gonna use good old-fashioned DeepSeek v4 Flash free. And we're going to ask, for what it's worth, Pangolin over Netbird. Okay, so my understanding about Pangolin, because I looked into this, Pangolin was mostly like it replicated the functionality of Cloudflare tunnels, so I could just take a single kind of like HTTP based service and put that out into the world with like auth in front of it. Um, that seemed, now the way that I read it was like that's the thing that it does. It may also do the other stuff. What I'm interested in doing is I've got my home lab and my dad has his home lab. And they're like two separate sites that we would like to connect as a sort of like VPC, right? So we'll have like this, the whole thing as a virtual private cloud together. And NetBird seemed to serve that use case. I had a conversation with an agent or whatever, and it was like a lot of people use NetBird or like NetBird and or Tailscale with Pangolin. Pangolin kind of gets things out to users who aren't part of your VPN, and then you have the VPN for, you know, I can like SSH into my dad's servers to help him debug. That's kind of like what I wanted to do with that. Does that make sense? Does that track, or did I not read Pangolin correctly? Okay, so let's think about user management. Right now we have read write guest access to the SMB shares. That sounds sucky. I'm also interested in hosting, in using an OIDC provider / hosting one. I don't know how these concepts interact with one another. Take a look at spec base ideas. What did I call it? What did I call it? Hey, wow, we have Twitch viewers. Hello, hello. Rotus Maximus. That's a good name. How's it going? NetBird is simple and right to the point in 2 to 3 commands. Yes, Tim, you recommended NetBird. You could do both, but if it's just going to be a 2-machine point-to-point, just hand-run WireGuard plus Rosenpass and be done with it. We're planning on connecting like the whole network. So like there's site A and site B, and I'm thinking of doing like the what do they call them? Routing peers. So my dad will have a routing peer set up, I'll have a routing peer set up, and we'll be able to see both our networks. If you're up to some S2S stage headache, OpenSense plus classic OpenVPN works after a big initial effort until it doesn't. Makes you age pretty fast. Plus, you haven't sold that very well. Hey, Swag Ghost, how's it going? All right, so let's take a look at this. And what should we call this file? Planned features. Nice. Planned. For some of the things I'm thinking about. Cool. I hate that Plus is very right. Plus is always very right. This stream is me just being confidently wrong in front of YouTube, being like, oh god, not again. Doing great. Cool to see a home labber sharing their setup process on stream. That's the goal. Oh, this didn't work. Rate limit exceeded. All right, well, let's try. Let's just use this, and we'll set it to medium. Continue. Are you a home labber? What kind of stuff have you been working on lately? NetBird also have agent networks now too. Agent networks? Can you confine agents to a specific network? That's like, okay. So here's something that like I think a lot of people are thinking about. Phrasing. A lot of people are thinking about right now. If you're, let's say, working in an AWS shop, so we're talking about enterprise situations now, and we'll deal with whatever the hell this thing is talking about soon. If you're actually, let's do this. We're having an aside. Boom. Okay. So if you're dealing with AWS or some other like cloud solution, right? Your users have IAM policies and things like this, right? And that gives them a certain level of access. And let's say they're able to provision, stuff, delete resources, that kind of thing. That's a lot of power, right? But usually we more or less trust admins of some sort, right? Now, if you give if you run, let's say, Claude Code in YOLO mode, which, I think like is becoming more and more normal. More and more people are like, whatever, it's more productive this way. And you have those like basically cloud credentials and permissions, then so does your agent. And agents are really quick to realize, like, oh, hey, this machine has the permissions I want. Or like, hey, this machine doesn't, but here's a way to escalate my permissions. And then just like basically gains itself privileges to do whatever the heck it wants in your VPC. That's bad. that's a security hole of massive proportions, I think. And so it'll be really interesting. I think one of the things that's going to become really important moving forward is how do we give agents restricted access to infrastructure? That'll be an interesting thing. Okay, that's my side. Back here. Oh, I mean, yes, but I also desperately miss teaching this. Miss teaching. This is what I get to do. Uh, yeah, fair enough. I also miss teaching. I always thought that the YouTube channel was going to be like, oh, I get to teach again. And instead it's more like, oh, I get to publicly learn. So, okay. Cool. I do have a home lab, but I had enough IT during my job the last couple weeks, so not much beyond maintenance. Fair enough. What do you do? What do you do for work? Are you in IT in general, software development? What's your main vibe? And what are you hosting in the home lab? I also got my agent Naboo to port more or less most of the core util tools like grep and so on into Rust. They be zooming. Ah, that's fun. Machine identities. Yes, fast classifiers on proxies like light LLM. Highly suggest. I would definitely will be taking a look at that. Hey, Nick, how's it going? Okay, so the agent spat out a bunch of stuff at me, and now we're going to read. This is all it's just thinking, right? Yes. Okay. App login, file access. Yes, this is correct. These are the things that I'm thinking about. Grounding. What's already here? Coverage is healthy. Yes, I know. I know that my home lab is in a decent enough shape. I'm a cloud engineer, mainly focused on Azure, Terraform, and providing AI data science infrastructure. That sounds like a cool gig. That sounds like a lot of fun. I've never dealt with Azure yet. I dabbled in a little bit of Terraform. But man, you must have your hands full at the moment. Doing cloud engineering for AI and data science infrastructure, like now's the time. Okay, coverage is healthy, but two things matter for this conversation. Current state, your NAS has exactly one real identity. True. SMB is guest open. Yep, that's true. Yep, you've already thought hard about this. The idea folder Nix-NAS service hosting shared identity two-site admin over mesh VPN. There's no way that's the title this thing defaulted to. Cool. It found my other existing docs. Why the ideas folder is a nice addition to spec base. So we're not starting from zero, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The key reframe user management is not one thing. The confusion dissolves once you see that a home lab has four mostly independent identity layers, each with its own auth mechanism. OIDC only touches two of them, so your SMB pane and your OIDC interest are mostly orthogonal tracks that happen to share one Yes, okay. That's what I figured. I figured, like, when we were bringing up Canedum and other can ID management. I'm still calling it Canedum, but now this makes sense. I was thinking, like, how many of my problems does an OIDC provider or something like ID provider of some sort solve? No OIDC, network entry. Yeah. File access, Samba creds or guest. No OIDC. Okay, but Canedum still solves my Samba stuff? That's interesting. I don't know how that works. I love how scuffed AI ASCII boxes are. Yeah, how did that happen? Restricting access for AI agents from devs to resources has actually been a main talking point recently. Yeah, I bet. Especially with the ease of which developers can just connect MCP servers to things they have a license for. Yes, exactly. Like, it's a huge problem. And like, it seems to not be something people are talking about that much, but like, maybe that's just the space I'm in. I'm really glad to hear somebody's thinking about this. By the way, if I suddenly disappear, kernel 7.2 went south. Should be perfect for my next, or for my N9070 XT, and get rid of DKMS for 10 gigabit Ethernet. Ooh, I love whenever I can get rid of DKMS. When I swapped my NVIDIA 5070 Ti for the 9070 XT, it was just, oh, so good. So good. Good luck, plus, we wish you luck. All right. Kinedum handles POSIX users. Okay, cool. I'm going to learn a lot as I do user management. This is going to be fun. The punchline: SMB does not speak OIDC. An OIDC provider secures web apps and VPN onboarding. It does not secure a Samba share. Okay, so fix sucky guest SMB and send up an OIDC provider are two separate journeys that a shared directory eventually unifies. Cool. Guest local Samba accounts or Active Directory Kerberos. Kinedum is LDAP v3 plus OAuth 2 OIDC. It is not an AD domain controller, so it can't hand Samba or Kerberos tickets. Okay, Kinedum could serve LDAP user lookups, but Samba still needs its own NT password attributes, and I'm genuinely unsure Kinedum stores those. Oh, okay. That sounds annoying. Yes, you are. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So this I went with Samba. Just because Samba out of the box tends to be a little bit easier, I found, than NFS. And I've done my fair share of NFSing. Not and okay. Not the most, but I've run NFS. NixOS, yes, I'm no longer baiting with NixOS, I'm actually doing NixOS things. If you host something like Nextcloud, you don't need SMB. I don't want to host Nextcloud though. Nextcloud looks like not fun. One advice: Postgres OIDC auth for DB sessions. Best thing you can do with it: disable at compile time. Okay. Postgres OIDC auth for DB sessions. Interesting. Like, think about the problem. SMB is the solution. Yes, I mean, I understand. I don't want to have to go through Nextcloud. Right? Like, I want... Well, okay. No, hold on. I haven't used Nextcloud very much. It seems really heavy for... I want my files available on other machines. Right? I don't want a GUI and have to poke through like a scuffed Google Drive equivalent. Right. Yeah, so I don't want to, like, that feels heavy. What I want is just like my files to appear on my computer, like my workstation, as though they're just files, right? And I want to be able to do that for N clients. That's kind of the vibe. Now, if Nextcloud empowers me to do that, then I'm interested. But it still brings with it, like, now I have like folders, and I have, or folders. Now I have like a document editor and like a calendar and tasks and to do, and I don't know if I want all that from Nextcloud. Yeah, I've done Nextcloud, and the desktop clients are a pain. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the vibe. But the principle here that Nick's proposing is good, right? It's like, think about the problem. SMB is one solution to it. It was at like up until now the best solution. Right? It's just like, I don't have to share every data set separately, right? Because I have a nested ZFS dataset situation. But I also now have like an AI to just write the Nix config that just goes, okay, copy paste, let me get all the nested data sets, right? This is no longer that much of a problem. So I guess one of our questions is, does NFS make my access simpler? Maybe. So let's ask, would swapping out swapping out Samba for NFS make my auth situation easier? Because I really, really am not interested in hosting Kerberos or Active Directory equivalents. That's how I feel like about any bundle application. Yeah, I've yet to find like a great like big bundle application. Usually dedicated solutions feel nicer. I mean, and then there's your Unix philosophy at work, right? You're like, give me a small thing that plays well with others, and we'll have a great time from there. big advantage of a guy is you can reuse auth and perms and not need to replicate it across systems. Yes, that is what I'm hoping for, right? That's what I want my OIDC provider to do, or IDP, like IDP, identity provider. That makes sense. If you ever hear me say an acronym and then say it again out loud full, it's because I'm trying to figure out what the acronym means. If you have any Windows systems you want to access a file share from, be aware that Windows Home or Pro do not have native NFS support. It's an enterprise-only feature. Yeah, don't worry. I got rid of all my Windows systems. So, yeah. I had one up until recently. It was just a gaming machine, but it's been swapped out for Bazite now, so we're chilling. We can vibe code one, don't worry. Okay, so let's dive down and see what it thinks of NFS. Short answer, it depends what easier means, and the honest version is counterintuitive. Okay. Who authenticates? Nobody. Server trusts the client's claimed UID GID plus the export IP list. Worst in guess SMB. KDC. Spotty. Okay. Yes. Wait, Kinetum has a built-in KDC? Didn't it say it didn't earlier? All right. iSCSI? I haven't heard anyone mention iSCSI but my father. Okay, what is... Okay, via a Kerberos ticket from a KDC. Kinetum has built-in KDC. Okay. Let's... There comes a point where I really don't trust the AI. WebDAV is also an option. Well, yeah, WebDAV points me in the Nextcloud direction because I think it handles it fairly well, but I also know very little about WebDAV. Yes, NFS access is based on IP, so I wouldn't have to manage users. So that's interesting, but I don't think this is better. I was only half joking with iSCSI, I'm sure. Okay, let's see. So what am I interested in here? I'm looking for Kinetum KDC. And is that really what I want to do? Is it worth bringing, like, I just don't want to have two sets of users, right? Yeah, and I don't know enough about CGAs yet to really like want to implement something with it. KDC. Okay, it looks like we're getting a hallucination here. Can you properly search for Kinetum KDC? I don't know if that actually exists. So I think SMB might have to be SMB might have to be its own thing, and that's not that big a deal, right? We have a handful of simple to use, or like simple users. And what even needs access to this? Maybe a compute, like a separate compute device that runs some containers. Clients, like workstations. I have a single workstation where this matters right now. I mean, it's not like Donna's gonna need like direct file access. She's probably gonna be happy to just use it through some web GUI I provide. So managing a handful of Samba users is not hard. It's very likely that trying to do sort of like KDC stuff is going to be more work than just creating a handful of Samba users, right? Scrape that shit, yeah. WebDAV is a mixed bag, implemented a server once, and testing the clients revealed how bad most really are. But WebDAV has some funny parts. Client requests a lock and granted for 0 seconds is a valid answer. Granted for 0 seconds. Awesome. I feel bad. I realize I titled the stream SOPS and we're doing user management, but whatever. Okay. I was wrong, and the correction matters. Yeah. Kinetum does not have a built-in KDC. I asserted Kinetum has a built-in KDC. That's false. Yep. LDAP, radius. I know like none of these. Cool. Cool. So option C does not exist today. I should not have loaded it. Yep. Per user Samba accounts. It's a separate store from Kinetum. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think stick with Samba. And we have a simple like user so I think yeah, we like basically what I'll do is come up with a handful of Samba users and just kind of reuse them. It's not a big deal, right? Because like I'm still managing multiple users. I think hmm. Why Kinetum can provision them for you? Can it? I just read that it couldn't. So okay, Kinetum can provision separate can provision the Samba users? How does this work? Okay. Samba. No. SMB. No. Service integrations. LDAP OAuth2. Okay. I'm looking forward to this SSH key distribution situation. That sounds like it'll be nice. Okay, this is doing its own thing. It provisions POSIX users. Okay. Okay, this my freaking AI is mistaken. So let's start here. Accounts and groups, POSIX accounts and groups. Okay. Kinetum has features that enable its accounts and groups to be consumed on POSIX-like machines such as Linux, FreeBSD, or others. Both service accounts and person accounts can be used on POSIX systems. Too much thinking. This is, I mean, we're home labbing. We gotta be thinking. I do have a tendency to overthink things, but I don't know. Okay. The thinking is fun. Yeah, right? Like that's that's part of why we do this. So, we can do this. Yeah, wait, what? If we can just create users, it doesn't Samba use your like main identity kind of thing? Used Open LDAP plus Berkeley DB for this for a decade or so. Honestly, I liked it. Okay. Open LDAP and Berkeley DB. So, yeah, right? Like when I use Samba, it just picks up the ID, like the sort of user that I'm currently logged in as, right? And then you can choose a different user, but it will allow that user as well, right? Like, or it will use it will use that one by default. So if we can provision the user from Kinetum, and that user is like, I don't know, configured properly for Samba stuff, then we should be fine, no? What Kinetum provisions POSIX users means concretely, but nothing I deploy in this century. Plus heard the curiosity in my voice and was like, oh, hold on. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, I saw Berkeley and I was like, this is just the Berkeley DB? Is this like the original Unix gang really just came together and went, yeah, this is our database. Is that what that was? Sounds about right. Confirmed in the supported features list from before, when the NAS runs it, Kinedum users stop being remote app logins and become real POSIX users on the box. Okay, this is the missing link. Samba already calls get Pwanam. What? Okay. Password. I'm not even gonna try. And get Grinam to map get group name, get okay, to POSIX identities. It just has nobody real on the other end today, which is why you fell back to force user equals operator. Give Samba real users via Kinedum NSS, and the force user hack stops being necessary. Okay, I think we're onto something. I just don't fully understand it yet. Netbird, OIDC, NAS Samba, NSS, get PW name. Okay, what is Samba? What is NSS? ID map. Okay. Samba's ID map provides a means to map Unix users and groups to Windows accounts. Okay, cool. Unix ID, the only directory of who users are, owns UID and GID plus groups. A credential store, not a second directory. Okay. PW user clearly. Okay. The key distinction that resolves the Kinedum is the only directory attention. TDBSAM is a credential store, not a user store. The usernames must resolve to a Kinedum POSIX user via NSS or the account is inert. It's exactly like SSH authorized keys. You don't think of SSH keys as a second user store. They're just the auth secret for users that also exists elsewhere. Okay, this is progress. Looking, there's a small gap, but there's ways to close it. Okay. So your notes invariant survives. Slightly sharpened. Kinedum is the only directory of identities per protocol credential stores. SSH keys, SMB password are credentials keyed to those identities. So SMB readers, SMB writers, SMB admins. This feels good. Admin users equals at admin users. Root like on the share. Overrides. Okay. Because Samba resolves SMB writers through get group name, group membership is owned by Kinedum. You grant write access by adding someone to a Kinedum group, not by editing Samba. That's the inversion of today. Today, Samba owns the identity decision. Tomorrow, Kinedum owns it, and Samba just enforces. This is getting good. I like this. I'm going to move my head so you can read more of whatever this AI's thing is spitting out. File ops run as the authenticated user's real UID. Files get owned by Alice, Bob, etc. That's the accountability payoff. Full stop. Okay, this is cool. All right. Does Samba auth need a separate password, or can it bind against Kinedum LDAP? NixOS Kinedum client plus Samba coexistence. NixOS has services Kinedum and the UXD client module. Need to confirm NSS ordering plays nice with Samba's get. Okay, authenticated only shares change that Finder experience. Browse without login goes away unless you keep a guest. Read only share. Worth a deliberate decision. Do you want any guest surface or fully authenticated? Okay. Deprovisioning is two places. Remove from Kinedum and SMB password. Okay. This feels like it makes sense, but there are so many components I don't understand yet. Shape A. Assumed Kinedum was app VPN only and left file access hanging. This pivot closes the gap. Okay. So service accounts versus person accounts. That's nice. There are a crapload of moving parts. There are. I mean, I've never run a home lab where other users need to be accounted for at the level of like the system like this, right? It was always just like host a Docker container and people can access it. This is different. This is much harder. Hmm. Knidim is optimized as a repository for these data. Okay. This is why I tended to use Nextcloud and similar as the answer. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's just so many bits here. Ooh. I mean, okay. How do we make this learnable? That's the next question. I'm overwhelmed by the number of terms that I don't yet know. And that's only going to be resolved by going through each one of them one by one, right? Hey, how's it going? So, we're working on trying to figure out how to manage users in this multi-tenant home lab that we're building slowly. Seeing this, I'm starting to appreciate Active Directory and Entra ID. Ask your agent to collate all the parts and what they do to start. Yeah, that's the game plan. Don't do Samba, do NFS. I've I don't know. I've tried both. So I was running the NAS on NFS for a long time here, and we were looking at NFS as a possible alternative, like solution, if SMB got problematic. But SMB does work more nicely with non anything other than Linux, like including Mac OS, which is surprising. So I may stay this way. Okay. Okay, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around all the components we're dealing with here. I'm new to dealing with multi-tenant networks. Not just dealing with, creating. Creating and managing multi-tenant networks. And am unfamiliar with the major concepts and acronyms. Can you draft me a list of the concepts categorized and put into a file in this idea folder called auth terms? Cool. So we'll let it spit that out, and then we'll sort of just chug through those together as we figure this out. We are making progress. We're making progress. I mean, we still have a lot of other questions to solve too, right? Like, we need to host Knidim, right? Or whatever our thing is. Like, let's say we go Ophelia. Authorization server and portal fulfilling the identity. Oh, it's IAM. Okay, this is interesting. Of information security and single sign-on for your application via web portal. Ophelia is an OIDC 1 provider. Aren't we on OIDC 2? Knidim provides users picked up by PAM SMB consumes from PAM. Yeah, okay. What is what is PAM? Identity PAM. Privileged access management. Help reduce the risk of credential misuse by securing monitoring and controlling privileged account access to critical resources. Okay, this makes sense. I'm personally using Authentic for my SSO and OIDC in my home lab. Okay, cool. We get 1 vote for Authentic. You can see we're tracking a couple of options, and Authentic had yet to get a vote. And I was like, oh, cool, we can rule that one out. But now we're all equally voted on. So we're right back where we started. Okay, so privileged access management. Oh, look at it. It's blazingly fast. Thank God. If I don't see blazingly fast on the website, I can trust that it's slow as shit. Oh, God, I love blazingly fast. Okay. I mean, this is nice. I expect all of them, but like, how does IAM is interesting because I want to learn more of the AWS-y stuff. That's, I do AWS-y stuff for work, and so getting well acquainted with it would be nice. Yeah, whatever you're choosing, it'll be a pain one way or another. They each have their quirks. Yeah. Yeah, I believe you. Okay. Cool. So it's done this. How does IAM relate to all of this? Let's say if I choose Athelia. What? Also, does OIDC have a version 2? Forgot. And the lightning bolt emoji. Yes, that's exactly it, Lo-Fi Turtle. You need the lightning bolt emoji. If you don't see lightning bolt or fire with blazingly fast, it's garbage software. It's 100% terrible. Yeah, like how does IAM interact with this stuff? I don't know. What does it do? Okay. I don't know why every time I stream my nose gets really itchy. What is that search utility? It's just like a Pi plugin, and it just launches their like little search thing. I don't know what it's called. Identity versus credential versus directory. Okay. Who someone is. An identity is a durable record with attributes: name, email, groups, UID, GID. Credential, proof of an identity. A password, an SSH key, an NT hash. Is an NT hash just whatever the heck Windows got up to? Sounds right. Kerberos ticket, a web auth, and passkey. Credentials are secrets bound to an identity. Credentials are secrets bound to an identity. An identity can have many of them. Okay. SSH key and Samba passwords are credentials, not a second user store. The identities behind them live in one directory. Okay, so you have an identity, and it probably has a list of like the public side of their keys, of their credentials, and then you have the private end of the credentials, that kind of thing. NTLM hash. Okay, cool. Directory, the store of identities, and sometimes their credentials. And sometimes their credentials. Okay. Canedum is the only directory, means only Canedum decides who exists. Per protocol, credential stores. Authorized keys are keyed to those identities, but don't define new ones. Okay, cool. 9K jumbos galore. Wait, what does 9K jumbos galore mean? But also, congratulations. Let us know how Linux kernel 7.2 is. Identity provider, IDP, a service that holds identities and vouches for them to other services. Okay, this makes sense. So basically, it stores your identities, and then you need to give the identity provider the credential, and then your IDP kind of vouches for you across a set of applications. That makes sense. And before you ask, why 9K jumbos? NFS is the answer. Okay. Hell yeah, I need to make the move. Just hate waiting to build. Okay, wait. So what's special about Linux kernel 7.2? I have no idea. I mean, I guess I'm not running. I don't have Linux workstations right now. That's sad. I need to do something about that. Relying party, consumer, a service that trusts an IDP's vouching instead of holding its own users. Navidrum trusting Canedum for logins. Navidrum is a consumer. NetBird is a consumer, not a provider. Apps cannot log in with NetBird, which is exactly why NetBird cannot replace Canedum. Okay, cool. This makes sense. Single sign-on, this I know about. The IDP says this is Alice, but which Jellyfin libraries Alice can see is decided by Jellyfin, not the IDP. Cool. Authorization versus authentication. Authentication, proving who you are. Authorization, what you're allowed to do. Cool. Per app, RBAC. I was going to say, what's RBAC? They got it. Okay, cool. Role-based access control. So this is like if the access control is based on a group instead of the user. Because like you can use groups to represent roles, right? Would that make sense? Or is this more like a principle where we kind of like, instead of giving every user their own specific like set of permissions, we're setting up roles and users get to take on those roles. But that's still groups. Permissions assigned to roles or groups rather than individuals. Roles or groups, yes. Grant right by joining the SMB writers group. Yes, this makes sense. And I think I like that. Oh yeah, there's something further. Yes, you understand RBAC. Cool. There's something further up the stack for you than pure user management. Okay. Tier, a course authorization level. Deprovisioning, removing a user's access. Here we go. Authentication protocols. This is good. This is good. Okay. OIDC, OAuth 2. Is this the same thing? OAuth 2 is OIDC? That doesn't sound right. Built on top of OAuth 2. Why don't I just read it instead of commenting? How do you trust the IDP? Okay. IAM is just the concept of managing access and identities for other applications. All of them do IAM in that sense, usually using RBAC or ABAC. Role-based access control and attribute-based access control. Okay, so IAM is just how we manage access. It's one way of doing it. Is that right? Identity and access management. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So then we might say that ID, like most ID, if not all ID providers, implement. Oh, wait, let me think. It tells you your ID, but potentially not your permissions, right? So for example, my ID provider says who I am, but within Jellyfin, the access management is still handled there. Unless they're talking about access management as like I get to log in. Interesting. How do you trust the IDP? I don't even want to know. I'm assuming smarter people have figured that out. I'm assuming there's like a pass of some sort of tokens or something where you register an IDP with an application. The application is like, oh, okay, great. You've given me the secret handshake, and now I know that this ID provider is legit. And then there's some like anti-tampering in the meantime. The answer is PKI. Let's hope it's in the list. Okay, OAuth 2, a delegation framework. Let app A access user stuff on service B without the user giving A their password. Okay, cool. OIDC, OpenID Connect, built on top of OAuth 2 to add login, who is this user, via an ID token. OAuth alone is about access. OIDC adds identity. Apps log in with Kinedum via OIDC. Okay. So OAuth says, you're already a user. You're Bob. We have assumed that we can understand that you're Bob. And knowing that you're Bob, we can authorize you, not authenticate you. Yes, we can authorize you, not authenticate you. Authentication is some other situation to do stuff elsewhere. So essentially, OAuth 2 lets us delegate the authorization situation so that app A doesn't have to worry about auth. Okay, cool. And then OIDC is like, awesome, we can authorize people, but how do we find out who they are? How do we authenticate? Yes, how do we authenticate? OIDC steps in. Yeah, basically less, yes, until you run into odd equals and unregistered redirect URLs. That, I'll just file that away into the brain for later. Relying party. Yeah, okay, the app consuming tokens. Client credentials grant. Machine-to-machine OIDC. A service authenticates as itself with a client secret key. Client credentials granted. Machine-to-machine OIDC. Machine-to-machine. A service authenticates as itself with a client secret key. Secret/key. Not on behalf of a user. How a service reads from another service. Okay, yeah, sure. Why does my nose get so itchy on stream? Scope claim. A scope is a requested permission. OpenID, email. A claim is the data returned in the token. So a scope is is some sort of permission. A claim is I'm making a claim on some data. I want that data. Is the data returned in the token? That I don't understand fully. A claim is the data returned in the token. In the token. Okay, so not data, like it's not like files. It's scope is a requested permission. Email groups. A claim is the data returned in the token. Groups admins. Kinedum maps groups to OIDC group claims. I don't fully understand that. We'll come back. LDAP. The Directory Access Protocol. Oh boy. A protocol for querying and modifying a directory. That sounds useful. A protocol for querying and modifying a directory. What? This sounds like the way that... This sounds like we've solved... Why is Samba... What? Okay. At least it's not Ntrade with its hidden manifest version 2. You spend some time debugging until you know it and never forget the pain involved. LDAPs. LDAP over TLS. Okay. Simple bind. LDAP auth by sending a domain name plus password. Kinedum supports it. Okay. LDAP SAM. SMB password backed LDAP. A Samba PassDB backend that reads user entries from LDAP instead of a local file. Does Kinedum hold the Samba specific password attributes Samba needs? Given its LDAP is read-only? Likely no. TDB SAM stays a parallel credential store. Directory, like Rolodex. Okay. So, a Samba password DB backend that reads user entries from LDAP. User entries. LDAP is a protocol for querying and modifying a directory. Where are the user entries in that? LDAP seems more complicated than what is presented here. Okay. Interesting. Okay, Kerberos, a ticket-based auth protocol where a trusted KDC, key distribution center, issues tickets clients present to services. The only practical way to get per-user cryptographic NFSv4 auth. Okay. Realm, a Kerberos. Doesn't Proxmox do Kerberos things? Basically, your OIDC provider needs to give you permission to read certain scopes. The client requests another set of scopes. Only the scopes that the provider has given you access to are available to be read by the client. Generally, in the client docs, you will find what scopes are required for it to work as intended. Okay. That sounds like a good idea. I suspect you could read from the Kinedum LDAP. That seems like, it marked it as an open thing to consider, and that does sound reasonable. So that's one route. I'm going to skip past Kerberos. Now Kerberos is a ticket-based auth protocol. I'm going to leave it at that. And a realm is an administrative domain. That sounds Active Directory-y. Radius, a network access auth protocol. Relevant if a service, a Wi-Fi AP, needs to authenticate against the directory. Oh, that's interesting. So I could make Wi-Fi access part of Kinedum? Interesting. All right, here we go. PAM, NSS, UNIXD. Radius is crazy useful. How so? I'm barely seeing it. I just see VPNs, Wi-Fi, and switches. This sounds like if I were a network engineer, I would care a lot. You can, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can. Wait till you learn about 802.11x. Okay. LDAP is not just a protocol. It's also a scheme-based data structure. Or in modern day, something that extends inet.org person. Once you've seen it, you know why some attribs are everywhere. Okay. Is there a book I can read on this? Like, this is feeling so big and so valuable to know that I should read a book on this. Like, going through this is not going to get me there. PAM, pluggable authentication modules. Linux's login stack. Can this password log this user in? Goes through PAM. Okay, cool. NSS, name service switch. Linux's who is UID 1005 lookup. Get password name. Get group name. Go through NSS. Name service switch. Who is UID 1005? Look up. Okay. VM building time. Oh boy. I've fallen back into some old habits with my phone, unfortunately, but I'm still reading more. Hey, Hero Rareheart, how's it going? Uh, I mean, that happens to everybody. So, I mean, the fact that you're still reading more is fantastic. I think these sorts of like habits and the way that we restructure how we approach our day to day, it's like an iterative process, and you always fall back. It's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And the fact that you're still reading more is proof that you only took 1 step back instead of the whole 2. So try not to feel too bad about it, and yeah, keep trucking on. Set up things, lock yourself out. Best way to learn this. Okay. Plus isn't joking. Yeah, no, that I believe. That I do believe. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, my eyes are glazing over. This is a lot, but we're getting there. Unixd, Kinedum's client daemon that wires Kinedum into PAM and NSS. This is the pivot. With Unixd, Kinedum users become real POSIX users on the NAS. Samba then resolves its users via NSS to Kinedum. No force user hack needed. Okay, that's starting to make sense. That's starting to make sense. The thing is that wires Kinedum into PAM and NSS. With Unixd, Kinedum users become real POSIX users on the NAS. So what you would do is you would have, let's say I have n Unix systems. Kinedum has a store of IDs, right? And it acts as an identity provider. Holds the yes, it holds the identities and vouches for them. Now, with PAM, NSS, and Unixd, there's a daemon on every single one of my Unix machines. Is that right? Or is it just the host of Kinedum? I'm not sure. Because I guess, yeah. Would it... I need to see it. I need to see it, right? Because, like... My brain's getting real fuzzy, guys. Hold on. This is tough. Okay. So, I have machine A. Let's hop over here. And you guys can look at me be completely overwhelmed by by basic Unix systems administration. Okay, so I have machine A, and machine A has user Bob, right? And machine A has its own PAM and NSS stuff, right? And so I go over to machine A, I log in, I give it a password, and PAM says, Bob got his password correct. You are now authenticated as Bob, right? And to be completely honest, I like name service switch. Is it because we can have multiple users with the same name? Why do we have... There's UID. Okay, so whatever. There's some mapping between user IDs and actual users. That needs to happen. Okay. Okay, hold on. There's a bunch of really interesting comments. Radius is what enterprise networks use for managing access to their networks. It allows for central identity management on a network level and no anonymous access through a shared key. Okay, that's really cool. This is very cool. Okay. Part of the issue is just the rest of my life being hell. It's very tempting to fall into low quality dopamine when everything around me is so bad. I'm really sorry to hear that. That sucks, and that's totally true. To take an aside, yeah, that's... I mean, when things are tough, it is a lot harder to I mean, harder to do anything, right? It's a lot easier to just to lean on the things that make us feel good quickly. And I hope that you're not beating yourself up about that on top of the fact that the rest of life sucks. Uh, really sorry to hear that, and I hope things get better. I refute that this is basic. Okay, fair enough. I'm being self-deprecating. I tend to do that. Cool. For a starting point, yes, PAM. Okay, so highest risk and most flexible safeguard at the same time. Right. Okay. It does seem like the building blocks, right? And probably if I can sit with PAM, then I'll understand at least one authentication and authorization method, right? And if I've got one, then the rest of them become easier to understand because they have to borrow from each other. And I mean, the one that's most Unixy is the most likely to be the root of all of the other ones, except for whatever the hell Windows came up with, right? My first radius, OpenWrt is a quick win. I mean, I've already got 2 OpenWrt access points, so that's a good start. Okay, cool. Instead of me exploring SOPs today, we're advising me on how to learn authentication. I mean, this is going to be really good. Yeah, okay, so this does, I mean, this was the thing I was spending the most time on. Radius seems so cool too. Yeah, okay, so I'm starting to get this feeling that there's 2 layers that I really care about, right? There's kind of this layer of OIDC, which kind of like lets me authenticate apps, right? It's the app layer authentication, which makes sense because it's coming out of the web, it seems. Yeah, right? Right? And then there's this more this like lower level authentication that's happening. There's like LDAP, and PAM, NSS, that kind of thing. That feels to be one level as well. And then there's Radius, which feels like we're talking about network equipment like in metal, right? SOPS is about identity and secrets. That's true. I mean, honestly, learning this will get me closer to understanding SOPs. This makes sense. Okay. So, yeah, it feels like we're talking about authentication on 3 separate levels. And the way I was approaching it was, it's all just auth. Why can't I handle it with one thing? And it's not all just auth, right? And would I even want the authentication for my internet services, my let's say like Jellyfin and that kind of stuff? Would I want those users to be the same users that exist on my Unix systems? Very probably not, right? I would like one tool that does all of those so that they're in a hub, but I would still want to be like, these are OIDC users, and these are kind of like Unix networky levels, like the host level secret, host level users, right? And Kinetum gives me POSIXy things and OIDC, so that's really nice. For some reason, it's not playing well with Samba, but we'll figure that out later. And if we have to move to NFS, we have to move to NFS. That's fine. And then the last thing is Radius, which I know very little about, but seems very cool. Radius and LDAP are about the same level. Really? Okay. That is odd. That didn't feel like that. Interesting. Setting up auth and SSO was the thing that took me the longest in my lab, and I'm not even doing any POSIX user stuff. This is a really deep rabbit hole. It feels like a deep rabbit hole, but it's very exciting. Like anytime I like ram my head into a space that's like way too complicated for me, right? Like I know I'm in way over my head here. And I've seen these terms and things floated around, and I've dealt with them to some degree in the past, but now I'm kind of being forced to like think about them deeply. And even though I'm sure whatever I implement will suck and not be that well built or thought out, it like the process of putting together my whatever little thing I build will still turn this black box into something a little bit more transparent. Okay. This is what POSIX groups are for on those users. Yeah, my approach to my own security has been it's optional for the sake of convenience, which is really bad, but it also means everything I'm doing is very scuffed. I mean, that was my approach in every home lab I've been up to up until now. This is the first time I'm actually like trying to think about users, because before I was the user and auth happened at the app level, right? Nobody else was connecting to my NAS. Nobody else was connecting to any of my machines. It's just me. Now we're opening this up with a 2-site home lab between my father and I across across a VPN. And truthfully, this is not necessary to host services between the two of us. But I'm deeply interested in this, right? So we'll do our best. You're not in too deep. You're just in deep. You have life preservers. Yeah, I got the gang. So we're chilling. Okay. So why is Samba? Oh, wait. Hold on. Plus earlier said 9,000 block something. 9K jumbos. Okay. I feel like this matters here. I think you've seen I'm fairly responsive and available. Yes, of course, and thank you so much. So, SMB server message block SIFs, the Windows Mac file sharing protocol. macOS Finder is SMB first. Now, why? Like, it's a Unix machine. Samba VFS modules, guest share, a share reachable without credentials. The whole reason we do home lab stuff is not because we need it, now is it? Yes, agreed. I mean, I would love to get myself off of more and more streaming services, so that would be cool. Learning to swim means leaving the shallow waters. No problem with that. I mean, it's still a home lab. More lives than Super Mario. I mean, it always takes me 3 tries to install even just a Linux distro, so... Samba options that run every guest connection as a fixed POSIX identity. Current hack. Guests become operators, so read-write works on operator-owned datasets. Valid users, write list, admin users. Samba access controlled by user group. Write list overrides a read-only share for listed users. Admin users grants root-like power on the share. Groups resolve via NSS. Okay, see, I didn't expect... When I heard NSS was like a Unix thing, I didn't think Samba was gonna resolve groups via NSS. That seemed confusing. I don't consider my privacy optional. Yeah. Your install rate is wild, right? Like, okay, I'm not crazy, right? Things go like a disproportionately amount of wrong when I'm doing them on stream, right? Also, my install rate is way better when I'm not live. I swear. Jellyfin needs access to the media SMB share. Yes, that's right. Have it mount the share with my plain text admin credentials. Allow anybody to read, write, and execute the network share to bypass Windows wonk. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid that, but like, my soul yearns for the simplicity. How so many weird failures hit you is insane. I'm glad that it comes across that way, because I'm sitting here and it just keeps going wrong. Most of the time, I'd be more worried if things do work the first time I try them. All right. Agreed in principle. But Rotus, you're new here. And my God, the number of things that have gone wrong while home labbing live is like completely... I used to home lab before I streamed, right? And like things would go wrong, but not this wrong. Since I've started home labbing on YouTube and Twitch, my TrueNAS machine blew up. My capture card died, which is like, how does it didn't even die? It just like, I don't even know. I came back from a vacation. It was working beforehand and then it just died. Okay, I guess. I was running Kubernetes at one point and then I had like a small brownout and then novice mistake. This one's on me. I didn't set static leases and Kubernetes loses its mind if the host IP address is changed, of course, because it has to like talk between the multiple things, right? Like the multiple hosts, the nodes rather. And so that went down and then I had to fix that. And then every time we install a Linux distribution, something goes wrong. Something goes wrong. Like I've been installing Linux for 10 years. I don't suck at installing Linux. This is an easy thing. Yet every single time I try to install Linux on stream, it takes 3 tries. I installed Bazite on my gaming PC, 1 try, because I wasn't doing it live. In ways I'm surprised by. Do you know how hard it is to surprise me? I believe. And here I am, just coming up with the most creative ways to suck at this thing I do for a living, live. It's a learning experience. It's humbling. One of these days I'm going to get ransomware to run the wrong command and it's going to be very bad. One of these days. Okay, there's my rant. Now, I will say... Sorry. Okay. I am grateful. Ultimate QA is getting me to try software on stream. Yeah, even when the Umbrella OS people sent me, or the Umbrella people sent me their device, it didn't work on the first try. Even when they sent me a device, which is just hilarious. Like, it wasn't even their fault. I just screwed it up. Anyways, okay. I am grateful for the fact that I keep running into crazy scenarios because it makes me more diligent, right? If I had been this, like, very lucky, happy-go-lucky home labber where nothing ever went wrong, and I just lobbed Docker containers at a wall and was like, then I wouldn't be sitting here learning about user permissions and stuff. Like, I can't wait. I can't wait for like a rogue LLM to go screw up my NAS so that I can learn, okay, we need to confine the permissions that agents get. And if I keep reading about this, I'll know how to do it. You should try doing first level tech support. It'll make everything feel less crazy. All right. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I've never done it professionally, but I've helped many an aunt and uncle get a machine up and running or fixed. But yeah, that's not the same as doing it all day. Okay, cool. So read only LDAP. You should try. Okay. There's a lot of really cool things here. OS SSH and sudo SSH. Right. This is not. This feels not quite true. I've taught programming. I've thought of my fair share of ANSI C to first years. I'm with you. I've never led the course, but I've ran 6-hour TA sessions. There was one time. All right, we're just doing stories now, I guess. Maybe I'm too tired. Okay, so there's one time I was in 3rd or 4th year. I was a teaching assistant for the course we nicknamed at Guelph the Angel of Death. If Nick is still here, he knows. And so this course was, yeah, short break lets you process in the background. Yeah. This course was like a big weeder course. It was our 2nd year course at the end of 2nd year. And it was the first assignment where you had to, one, take a really big spec, write a parser for it in C, and then every assignment built on the previous assignment. Like, that's a big change in the way you approach software development, right? If you're just like writing an assignment that you can write in 3 days, and then you never have to worry about it again, then code quality doesn't matter. Like, testing doesn't really matter. You either got the marks or you didn't, and you move on with your life. This is the first part where the entire course builds on it. And so the canonical example is you have to take some section of iCal. Yeah, the iCal spec. And you have to write a parser for it in ANSI C. And I was a teaching assistant. The second assignment was about to drop. The second assignment was due the next day, I think. And I had office hours. I like your funny words, Magic Man. The assignment was due. It's the second assignment, so like they're dealing with the consequences of their bad code, right? And then I had office hours at like 10 a.m. And so I show up. I have about like I have an hour or something like that. I show up, and students, like a few of the very diligent students, were there. Like they knew, they were like, I'm gonna get me some Nathan time and make sure I pass this assignment. And then like a bunch of students started showing up at like 15 minutes till I had to go. And I'm like, oh my god, how many of there are you? And they're like, there are more coming. There are more coming. I'm like, you guys know my office hour is done, right? They're like, can you stay? And I have my own class. I have like, I have to go to a lecture. They're like, will you come back? I don't get paid for this, right? Like I get paid for the 1 hour, and then that's it. But I'm like, I saw like 15 kids, 15 desperate, hopeless kids trying to write ANSI C on top of the terrible ANSI C they'd already written. And so I'm like, oh God, okay. So I go to my class, I come back with some coffee, and there's like 40 of them. There's, they heard that I was gonna stick around, and I'm like, what do you mean there's 40? Like, I don't know how to run office hours for 40 people, right? Usually we take one at a time, right? And so I'm like, okay, we're doing this group style, right? So I start getting them to write out their problems on the board in order, and then we start like grouping them. Like, okay, you guys are all facing similar problems here, here, and here. And then, you know, in every class, there's a few people who are who grasp things more quickly than others, right? Just the way it goes. And so my approach was take the next biggest shared problem, make it so that at least one of the students who was grasping quickly got it, and get them to teach the rest of the group, and then I would move on. And I was there for 6 hours, and then I took them out for beers after. It was a very fun time. I was exhausted, though. Short and stacked assignments producing bad code still exist. Just from the other side, they call it vibe coding. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, but you have to stay here and try to work it out together. Yeah. Learning class discipline is hard. My biggest class was 33, fresh out of boot camp soldiers. Ooh. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Yeah, I probably spent way too much time being a TA, but I loved it. So it's definitely the thing I miss most about university life. I think if I could get one more thing, like in my career, it would be teaching opportunities. I don't have it right now, and I'm like, I was good at it. I really loved it, and I would like it back. They finished the boot camp and they uttered, "What is a programming?" How does that how does how does that happen? Oh, interesting. Okay. So, I'm just going to start probing at some things a little bit further. This, he says, using Vim and not using any of the hotkeys, just slamming J, I guess. Okay. I'm thinking about this diagram here. So now that I'm done yapping, so we have OS admin, SSH, and sudo, and it's saying Canedum does it says no OIDC, but it's not drawing a line from OS admin and SSH to Canedum. But that feels wrong. No, Air Force boot camp. Oh, when you said soldiers. Okay, interesting. They finished Air Force boot camp, and their placement with me was as a contractor to teach these dorks. Interesting. That must have been a hell of an experience. Canedum handles POSIX users, right? And the distribution of SSH keys? Curious why a line isn't drawn from Canedum to it. Additionally, let's say I create a new VM or machine, I have to define a user at that time. Oh, no, I don't. I could just do root. Can I provision a user from Kneadem as a user on this machine? I assume so. Oh, this would be so... Okay, hold on. I'm starting to see something fun. If Kneadem handles POSIX users, right? I rebuild machines a lot. I just do. And if, you know, every time you rebuild a user, right? Every time you rebuild a machine, you create a user and you always name it yourself. But you're basically starting from scratch. It doesn't have the permissions that it had before because new machine. No, wait, Kneadem does authentication. Does it do authorization? Probably not. Darn. Okay. I've gotten to teach lots of places. Telnet, T-Mobile, Silicon Valley Bank, State Farm, Space Force, and more. I'm sorry. Wait, is Space Force real? I thought that was a TV show. Did they actually have? Was Boots on the Moon a real thing? Were they trying to get boots on the moon? And what was it like teaching the Space Force people? Wait, are you serious? I thought... Okay, this is my political ignorance. Did the US actually create a Space Force? I thought that was just like memes we were doing to make fun of the US. Did they make a Space Force? Okay. The diagram has a real graph, not a stylistic choice. You're correct. Kneadem does distribute SSH keys. And a helper Kneadem SSH authorized keys wired into SSHD's authorized keys command. Holy shit, they did? Okay. So, that's my ignorance. But in my defense, Donald Trump says a lot of things about things he's gonna do. And they all sound ridiculous. And Space Force really was out there. You know, I was like, yeah, he's gonna build a wall and make Space Force. Like that's how that got grouped up in my head. And then the world started, and then I was like, oh, the world's making memes about Space Force because it's like ridiculous. Wow. It's not what one thinks. So yes, it exists and was also a meme making fun of the US. Interesting. That's interesting. Well, I'm sure the teaching opportunity was still very cool, regardless of, yeah. Okay. Provisioning onto a new machine is exactly how this works. Bringing a new host into the identity realm is install Kneadem UNIXD clients, configure etc Kneadem UNIXD, enable the daemon, plus task service, add Kneadem to nsswitch.conf, declare which Kneadem groups may log in, enable POSIX adders on the accounts. After that, getEnt password Alice resolves from Kneadem. SSHD fetches Alice's keys from Kneadem, and PAM authenticates her. The user isn't created on the machine. The machine looks up the user from Kneadem at login. That's freaking awesome. Yes, but I'm happy to take the government's money, and you should be. The world is weirder than one would think. Yeah. Teaching soldiers is actually great. They listen, they do what they're told, including ask questions. If you don't understand, do not fear me. Working, which is just like teacher heaven. Yeah, that does sound pretty great, right? I mean, they are taught to take instructions really well. Like that's my understanding of step one of being a good soldier is take instructions. Oh, crunchy. This is a pull-based provisioning, not push-based. You don't just say Kneadem, create Alice on host X. You say host X, trust Kneadem for who exists. The user appears on the host on first login with homedir auto-created by UNIXD tasks. This is really cool. Okay. I like this. I like, oh, sorry, you're not with me. There we go. This is really cool. I like this a lot. Um, and so if we have POSIX, things, then NFS really does make the most sense, right? Ah, bright, intelligent people interested in. I mean, see, I never doubt the people that make up the actual body of something. It's the leadership decisions up top that are silly, you know? Like that I have no doubt that a lot of the folks were bright, intelligent people, and all of that. But yeah, it's just like the notion of it, you know? Okay. The OS admin layer does talk to Kdenum, just not via OIDC. Yes, this makes sense. Because why would it talk to the OS admin layer via OIDC? That doesn't make a lot of sense. They had a thing for failing them, and some of them were just slow, not stupid. I went to bat for them for at least a dozen of them. Nice. Don't go so far out from your mic, and your mic volume is a bit low. Ah, okay. Let's see if I can do a quick fix. I gotta get going soon. Actually, pretty much right now. But let me do this fix before. Unless, huh? Properties. Seems I can't drive it much harder. I'll figure that out for next time. Okay. So Kdenum lets me handle OIDC, POSIX users, SSH key stuff, LDAP. It lets me do radius. I don't even know what that what the value of that is yet, but I'm really, really excited about that. And potentially Samba via NSS. I've been playing Tokowal a lot lately, and Nemle set the game in a fictional dystopian northern European nation, and it's just America. So that should give you an idea how things are going. Yeah. Yes, it's very good. Nice. Yeah, this is exciting. I get the feeling that the other ones in the running, like Ophelia, Authentic, and Keycloak, are probably just the OIDC layer. I doubt it's also this layer. Okay, so we've got a lot of learning to do, but this was a very good learning stream. I recommend to anyone into visual novels. Very cool. Okay, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. This was very informative. I feel like this was a really good learning stream, and we also got off to some really fun conversations. I'm hoping I get to SOPS at some point. When are you coming back? I stream every Monday, so from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I will see you all next week if you're willing to hang out with me again. Yeah, this was a fun one. This was a fun discussion, and I feel like I'm learning a lot about auth here. So this is really cool. I'll be available. Excellent. Yes, I've got a lot to think about. I should do it often. I wish, but I work a full-time job, and and I'm trying to run a YouTube channel, and I'm trying to start a company, all sorts of things. So I would love to stream more. Maybe next time. 30 minutes daily. Thanks for stream. No problem. Happy to be here. Okay, everyone. I'll catch you all later.